to train hard. You got to do the work. I think the work always comes first. If you do the work, then when it comes to game time, it's like fun. It's easy, and you're confident, and you can back yourself because you know I've done all that work before.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Up and Coming podcast. I'm Tanasio and Connor.
And I'm Connor McMullen.
And this podcast is where we interview up and coming stars who are on the path of accomplishing their dreams and playing sport at an elite level. Today we have a very special guest, Angus Crichton.
Yeah, so Gusi is a very familiar name for most. He's a country boy from Temora, although playing his junior footy for the young cherry pickers. Graduating school in 2013, many clubs were approaching him and he came to the decision to play for South Sydney Rabbitohs. Following on from that, he switched clubs in 2019 to the Sydney Roosters, where he is at currently. Crichton has represented his state in New South Wales and has also represented his country in the under-23s junior Australian side. Achieving all of this at only the age of 24 is admirable, and we look forward to the near future.
Hey,
so welcome,
thanks for
Gusi.
having me, boys. Appreciate it.
Awesome. So how you been?
Yeah, good, man. Sort of off-season mode at the minute. I just went down to the countryside and visited my grandparents and went down South Coast for a little bit with a mate down that way. So get out of Sydney for a bit and back in town sort of for Christmas and good time of year now.
Yeah, nice.
When do you go back to pre-season?
So because the Origin was at the end of the year this year, it's like my longest off-season I would have had since I come in. So I think we're back January 14. Yeah. So still ages, yeah.
And what's like with the more veteran players, do they get like a longer?
Yeah. So I think it's if you've done more than 6 pre-seasons, I think minimum 7 weeks, and then I think the more pre-seasons you've done, the more time you get off. So usually I've gone back day one of pre-season every year. This is probably my biggest break, and no, it's good. But you got to make sure you keep it ticking over. So sort of, I've still been doing a little bit of training here and there.
Yeah, I found that out the hard way.
Yeah, you don't want to let it go.
Yeah,
you don't want to let it go too bad.
Yeah. So today, we just thought we'll switch it up. Just got a few questions from the viewers, if that's all right.
Yeah, sweet, man.
So I'll say a couple and you'll say a couple. Harvey McGregor asked, do you still have any mates from Young Public School?
Yeah, no, Harvey's one of my mates from Young Public.
Oh,
yeah, we used to catch the school bus together, me and Harvey. He was like tiny when I was younger. But so his brother Jock, he was at Scott's as well.
He would have been a few years below you.
Yeah, a few years below me. But so we've got a lot of good family friends back in Young. But I sort of left Young when I was, I think I would have been 12 to come to school. So it's all sort of family friends from back home. But still, a few boys I went to primary school with still message me and that kind of thing. So link up sometimes.
Yeah. Tommy Michelle asked, when's he coming back to South?
Oh man, Roosters are so good. I don't know if I can lose, bro.
So on the topic of that, Daniel Farr asked, what's Roosters like? Maybe you can talk a bit about like the Roosters way and stuff like that.
Yeah, mate, Roosters it took me by surprise, hey, like, 'cause you don't realise how much work goes into a place like that. Like, from the outside looking in, everyone's always like, oh, they just buy their players and they win games because they buy the best players. But I think, the thing about the Roosters is they like demand you to be great. They sort of make you live up to their expectations and live up to their standards. And if you don't, you're gone pretty much. So it's pretty ruthless, and they expect you to be good. And I think that sort of pushes onto you as well. Like you expect to get the most out of yourself.
Yeah,
that comes from coaches, players, and then eventually, like it comes from yourself because you know that that's what you do there. And if you don't do it, you're not going to be playing and you're not going to be hanging around for very long.
Yep. So and last one, Daniel Farr asked for a shout out. So if you could just
shout out Daniel Farr.
Max Apono, he said, what was it like playing Origin like early in career after watching it all growing up?
Yeah, it was cool. I think so 18 was my first year when I debuted, just came off the bench, and I sort of just, when I rocked up into camp, I didn't know anyone, and it was just all a big buzz. I think, like, obviously watching an Origin when you're a kid and when you're at high school, it's like that's what you want to play in. So being around that team, that was really cool. That was the first time that we all won it. back for New South Wales, and I was just sort of riding the wave, I guess. Like I didn't have a massive role in the team or anything like that. It was cool to sort of meeting big name players and being around guys like Brad Fittler, guys like Joey Johns, Craig Fitzgibbon, Danny Badiris. They're all really good fellas. And then this year it was a bit of a different one. And when you sort of already know everyone, I got dropped last year. I played game one, then came back to the squad again this year. So it's a bit. I guess I was a bit more grateful for it this year, and then I guess had more of an understanding on what I needed to do this year than my first year when I was just sort of riding the wave.
Sure. Jeffrey Hughes asked, would you ever go back to Union?
I get asked this all the time, bro. I think, coming from Scots, everyone always wants to ask you that, but I think I've made the mistake a couple of times being like, oh yeah, whatever. But I think out of respect to Roosters, they pay my bills. They're my team that I'm at right now, and I love the club, and there's so much more I want to do at the club. So you got to be careful saying too much about that.
Yeah. From Will Warner, how was Aspinall house with Valzil?
Yeah.
Teacher there?
Yeah, which one? That's Pops, eh?
Yeah, Popsy.
Yeah, Popsy's the man. Yeah, he's a legend. I haven't seen him for ages, but I always used to see him around. Yeah. He was a really good fella, I think. I loved Aspinall. I loved being a boarder. That was probably one of my favourite parts about Scots is all the mates that I had in there, and even teachers like Popsy. He was the man. Yeah. He would help out with all my projects and that kind of thing as well. He's a good man, Popsy.
Yeah.
Can I just ask one more from Daniel Gibbs? He said, what was your trip up to Arnhem Land like, and what did you gain from it?
Yeah, it's really cool. It's been tough. Like with COVID this year, I've been able to go up, and it's been full on the last couple of years. But it's been really cool, I think. So everyone sort of knows the story. I was mates with Leon and Delwyn, and then went up there, and I was just shocked, bro, because it was just so different to anything I'd ever seen. So I sort of got my eyes open to Indigenous Australian culture through going up there and living in it. And their families just took me in with open arms. I think just because the boys had sort of told them what we'd been up to in Sydney, and they'd be like so grateful that I was helping out their boys. And I just sort of would go up there and live with them, and like they'd call me their adopted son, and like live with their family and go hunting, go swimming, and go fishing, all that kind of thing, which was unreal. Yeah. And I think, I'd never would have ever experienced anything like that if it wasn't for those boys. So yeah, life-changing trips like that, man.
And then back to Zeal, you got a bit of a similarity with your finger.
Yeah, Popsy, yeah. There we go.
How good. Obviously you're in the bubble for a bit with the NRL season and then with Origin. How was that?
Yeah, tough, man. It was a tough year. I think it's tough for everyone. That's the thing with COVID is you can't be complaining because every single person in the world was going through it. Yeah. So, yeah, you can't be kicking stones too badly. And we were lucky we still got to be able to go out and do our jobs. It's a pretty fun job to be able to have the honour to go and do. So. It was tough though. Like we were only allowed to stay at home, go to the grocery store, and go to training. So, and then even when you were out at the grocery store, you'd be looking over your shoulder because people send photos into you at the grocery store. Like we're allowed to be there. I don't get it. People try and stitch you up all the time.
I think because people thought you guys were actually in like a bubble,
in
a probably like made a facility for you or something.
Yeah, I don't know, bro. But
and then was it hard, like not being able to see your family? And
yeah, for sure. All of that, like it's all that whole social thing you sort of need to be able to connect with your mates and get away from footy. So I feel like the bubble made the year even more intense. Like even though it was an intense year, it made it like extra intense because had the microscope on everyone all the time. You're looking over your shoulder. You're living to these restrictions every day. Yeah. And then Origin was tough as well because we were like actually locked up, like up the coast. Like it was a good setup. We're on like sort of a golf resort. Yeah. So boys that play golf loved it. I'm not a big golfer, so I was just chilling. Yeah.
Did like the days go long?
Oh no, it was alright because we'd have big training days, and I got some good mates in that team, so we just ended up hanging out. Daniel Tupper doesn't play golf ever, so we just chill.
So let's just go back to the start. Where were you born and where'd you grow up?
So I was born in Temora, which is sort of like, I think it's like 60 k's out of Young. And I grew up on a farm, which is sort of like in the middle of Young and Temora. So I would have been like 30 k's out of town. Grew up on a farm out there, got two little sisters, my mum, my dad. That was just sort of all I knew growing up until year 6. So I'm super tight with my sisters, tight with my mum and my dad. I always wanted brothers though. So like when I was a kid, I always wanted brothers. So my sisters would go and play like doll houses and teachers and all that kind of stuff. And me and my old man would just kick around the farm. I'd follow him around in the ute, just sort of chill with him. Used to do a bit of training with him as well, actually, my old man. And then when I went away to school, I was like frothing because I was in McIntyre with like 30 boys all around. I'm just like so keen to hang out with like brothers kind of thing. So ever since I'm like, kids get homesick and stuff when they come to boarding school, but I was sort of just so excited that I didn't really get that homesick. Yeah.
So would you say with you and your dad being the only males in the families, sort of grew like a really tight relationship and sort of like a friendship? Sort of
for sure. Yeah, for sure. Me and my dad are really tight. I put heaps of that back to that. He's a good man, my dad. So a lot of lessons that he's taught me, and is a really sort of strong figure in my life. And really good, solid man.
And then like being around your sisters and your mum, did you reckon this made you feel like more confident when being around talking with girls?
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe. I feel like I don't know. I feel like I've got a good understanding of like how to treat women, and my mum's super like that. She's like, this is how you look after women. This is what you do. So I'm very grateful for my mum to sort of instill that in me for sure. Yeah.
And like, would you say your dad was sort of like your brother to you? Like,
yeah, pretty much. And then I think when I came up to school, like as a boarder, you need to get out on the weekends and that kind of thing. So that was when I was good mates with Jack Maddox, and then we'd always just kick about together. Yeah. And mate, he's got 4 brothers, so I'll go over to his place on the weekends, and we'd be playing like backyard cricket, which I was sucked at. They're free cricketers. Knee footy, which I'd run over him at. And then that's pretty much it.
What primary school? Oh yeah,
so I went to Young Public School. That was like, it took me an hour on the bus to get in every day. I was catching the school bus since I was like in preschool. Yeah, and then like it was pretty cool, like doing that kind of thing. I guess it makes you a bit independent. Like it was an hour bus
so that's
ride
the closest school to your house?
Yeah. So it was 40 Ks, but the bus would take you like to pick up all the other kids on the other farms along the way. So it ended up taking an hour.
So that's when you and young Harvey were catching the
bus? We were catching the bus together. Yeah, the Millvale bus, me and Big Harv.
Yeah, bus buddies.
So like I know the country towns and like the schools and stuff, there can only be like 35 people and stuff, and maybe like one teacher. Was Young pretty big? Like how many?
Yeah, Young was, the school I went to was pretty solid. I think we had like 500 kids or 400 kids or something like that. There were full classes from like kindergarten all the way to year 6. No, it was a good school. I started off sort of like at the stricter school, at the Catholic one, and then ended up moving over to the public one, which I reckon was better.
Yeah. So you grew up as a country boy, obviously, and having to travel far at a young age. How did that shape you? How did your upbringing shape you as a man, and as a player?
I love living in the country. I think like it's the best upbringing, and I'm scared. I don't know if I want to have kids that grow up in Sydney because there's just so much here. It's a tough one because like now I've been to the city. I don't know if I could ever live without stuff going on all the time. But yeah, as a kid, like I hadn't used a laptop until I came to Scots. Like never caught a bus, never like a public bus, never used a taxi, anything like that. Yeah. So then, like you boys would be similar. Coming to Sydney is a massive eye opener to you. For sure. But I feel like growing up in a small town, and you learn how to talk to people, you learn how to be a good man, you learn how to like accept everyone, and I feel like that sort of sets you up to be a good person. I don't know. I think being able to accept and talk to all people and be a social person, I think. I feel like growing up in a country town sets you up to be a good person. Yeah.
And when you come back to the country, do people classify you as a city slicker now?
Wearing
your Yeezys instead of your RMs?
Yeah, man. I've never been a full cowboy, but my cousin's the proper cowboy. He goes to Knox, and he's from Trangie, and he's a full cowboy. Like he'll go home pigging on the weekends. Like he just bought a pig dog and called it Trigger. I'm like, mate, like, this is crazy. But me, I've never been a full like cowboy kind of guy. Like I've always loved going home, and I've loved living there, loved growing up there. But my dad was always super clear with me as a kid, being like, I think he had pressure on him when he finished school to move home and work on the farm. Same with his granddad. Same with my granddad. His dad, he went to Scots as well. I think he got pulled out when he was 16 years old to go and work the land as well. And so my old man would made it super clear to me. Don't feel pressure to come back and do what I'm doing. Like, live your own life, do whatever you want. And, I cop slack now for I don't look like a country boy, but I know it's all good.
So like, when did you start playing rugby? Was it in primary school?
Yeah, it would have been. I can't remember. I can't actually remember when I would have started. It would have been when youngest you could.
Yeah.
Remember, my dad was my coach as well. Mum would drive me wherever we needed to go. Mate, we'd have to drive like hour and a half every weekend. Like
Training and games.
yeah, so I used to play soccer on the Saturday and then union on the Sunday.
Yeah. And I saw like a video that I watched when you were young. Your mum said that you had a sign like up in your room that said, "I want to be a wallaby," and you crossed out "wanna" and you said "gonna."
Yeah, it's so typical. Mum telling everyone that. Eh?
Was that like sort of a goal? Or like a
Yeah,
dream
I
of
don't
yours
know.
since
I don't
you were a
know.
kid?
I think, mate, I used to like froth footy when I was younger. Hey, so like, I used to cross out post. Yeah, I full had this post where I crossed out the G of the W and wrote, "I'm gonna be a wallaby" on the post. What else? Like my dad was telling me the other day. I remember I used to make little books. So I did art and stuff at school. So I always loved that kind of thing as well. Like stuff like what you boys are doing, like film, PDM. Shout out to Justin McInnes, my man. He was a teacher back in the day. Yeah, I fully made like a team, like you get the programs for games.
Yeah.
I made like a Wallabies team and like picked my best team and like put me in at number 8. Yeah. And I'm like, I would have been like 12.
Yeah. Who was your favourite player growing up?
Mate, I loved Lottie Dakiri, hey.
Yeah.
The dreads.
Yeah, mate, I wanted to be a dreadlocked Fijian so bad, bro, when I was a kid. I wanted to be a Fijian proper.
Did you always try to imitate how like he played or other players?
I don't think I could.
Like I remember like when I was young, it was like the like Sonny Bill with the hits and
yes. So yeah, probably
Carmichael Hunt with the step.
Yeah. Sonny Bill was he's every kid's favourite. Yeah. But yeah, I remember as a little kid, like Lottie, I wanted to be a black Fijian with dreadlocks when I was a little kid, mate. I remember one time we went into like the local sports store in Young and I'm picking footy boots out with Dad and I wanted to get like the bright yellow Nike Mercurials and like I'm trying them on. I'm like, Dad, they fit so well. Like, let's get them. And he's like, oh, we'll come back tomorrow. So before I came up to school at Sydney and I came back, I left with like the big black ones with like the 6 front big metal studs.
Unreal.
So you were talking before about how you and your dad used to do a bit of training with him, and he was an old boy.
Yeah.
So did he play rugby back in the day?
Yeah. I think he was handy. So he says back in the day. No, he's pretty quiet. He doesn't talk too much about his
humble.
Yeah, old footy days. But he played like Aussie schools and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Played with like Tim Horan, Jason Little, those guys. I remember same thing. Like when I was a kid, I used to sneak up into his closet and try on all his old tracksuits and stuff.
Yeah. And did he give you any tips when you were younger? Or?
Not really. Like I think like I think one of the biggest things I remember once he's like, yeah, you got to be fit. And so I sort of would do some running and stuff, like run to the mailbox and back. Like,
how was this like?
I don't know. I can't even remember it. Like it all blurs into one, bro. I got a pretty bad memory, but yeah, I used to do like sprints and stuff with him sometimes. I come back from holidays and like do tackling and stuff with him sometimes. He can't kick to save himself, so didn't do that with him.
Then like obviously being in the country, your parents sacrifice a lot. Like what was the furthest you had to travel for like training or games?
Oh mate, hours. Like my mum's a champ, and same with Dad as well. Like we drive everywhere. Like we drive from Young to comps in like Glen Innes, Nowra. I don't even know. I just remember staying in like random caravan parks before games, and these are all like the comps where I was playing for like Riverina. And we would just get flogged at these comps. And like I remember sitting at the end of the comps, and Mum and Dad are behind me waiting, and I'm just like waiting for them to announce the New South Wales team, like fingers crossed, wanting to get in it so bad. Never ever got in any of the teams, just because our team, like we just get pumped by everyone.
So what year did you come to Scots?
Year 7. Yeah, year 7.
Year 7. And was it always instilled in you from a young age that you were going to be?
I think so. I think so. I think my mum and dad did a good job there, because you hear about kids that are scared to go away to school and they're like worried they want to stay at home. But I think because they were always told me how good of an opportunity it was going to be to go away to boarding school, I was just sort of so pumped to go and do it.
Yeah.
So when the time came around, I was just ready to go and just frothing.
Yeah. And what was it like coming from the country to the big smoke?
Yeah. Like I said, I wasn't too worried. Hey, like I think I was just so excited to like see what it was all about, and a foreign place with different people and different cars, different everything, man. So it's like I was like a fish out of the water at the start, but then by the end of it, I was pretty comfortable up here for sure.
You were in Aspinall, weren't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
I know they get their dressing gowns and slippers.
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
Did you get them?
I think we were the first ones to get their dressing gowns.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, so we were the first ones to move into those new
The
sort of rooms, the renos that they've got there.
Yeah, right. And did you ever get homesick or anything? Did you have a strong friendship group?
Yeah, no, it was pretty good. I think, we had a good crew up at Aspinall, and then had some good mates that were day boys as well. So I was pretty solid up here, which was good. My parents would come down and visit us a lot as well. They wouldn't want to miss many games and that kind of thing growing up. So
then obviously Scott says like a strong connection with the Indigenous community, and you were in Aspinall with Leon.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a bit about that?
yeah, so I was in there with Leon and Delwyn and just sort of got to know them because they were struggling. Like you boys would know with some of the you guys would know Galvo.
Yeah.
Simi's in Royal as well, I think.
So his brother's coming next year.
Yeah. So there's a lot of good men there. I think I just saw that they were struggling and just sort of wanted to help out where I could. And I was an older boy, so I guess I knew the ground we were walking on a bit better than they did, and had an opportunity to make their life a bit easier. So then just did that naturally, and it was cool. I'd never sort of met boys from the top end before. I'd never really met anyone or had a proper conversation with anyone that was from up there. Because it's like, where are we going to meet them in Sydney kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful I got to meet those boys, and it sort of exposed me to that side of Australia for sure.
And you're obviously still in contact with them too.
Yeah, they're both doing really well. Deli's a constable, police officer now back home.
That's awesome.
Moved to Nhulunbuy, and he's got a little girl as well. Yeah, he's moved his family, his mum and his dad and his brother and sister are all living in the house that he's paying for in Nhulunbuy, and he's killing it, Deli.
Yeah. Did your relationship with Leon inspire you to start the First People project?
So with Leon and Dylan, meeting those boys definitely opened my eyes to Indigenous culture in Australia. And I guess when I went up there, I was just like, this is so crazy, and no one even knows about it really. Like no one really, no one really celebrates it. And I think that should change, and that was the whole reason why I wanted to start that. Is I'm like, this is so amazing. Like this is in our backyard. This is part of all of us, even if you're not Indigenous. Like we're in Australia, we're in an Indigenous country where this is our history, these are our roots. Like we should all celebrate this, and we should all own it. So
for those people that are watching and they don't know about the First People's project, can you just explain a bit about it?
Yeah, so that's pretty much how it started. Was I met those boys, opened my eyes to Indigenous culture, and then I'm like, people need to know about this, and I'm like, how can we sort of create a foundation which will educate people about it? So that's one side of it. Is it's been tough this year with COVID and whatnot, but we want to sort of create content or create like a mini series or create something in mainstream media which is going to educate people about Indigenous culture that wouldn't usually watch, say, like SBS, ABC, NRTV. So the plan is to sort of try and take athletes away and film, like, say, a week of them up in Arnhem Land or in a different community, and through that the viewer sort of learns about the culture a bit more, and I guess educates himself a bit more, even if it's accidental, just because they want to watch the people who are on the program. And then the other part is helping kids when they finish school do what they want to do. So like at the minute we're helping Galvo now. He's down at Glengarry doing his trade down there, but when he gets out he wants to do some social work and that kind of thing. So it's about linking up good kids with good families and giving them an opportunity to do what they want to do.
Yeah. So what's your vision for the charity? Do you just want to create more exposure to
pretty much
that
just help good kids achieve their dreams, and help facilitate that, whether that's like linking them up with a job opportunity or linking them up with a good family that's going to help look after them, or if they want to go and do a trade, go to uni. And then the other side of it is just educating Australia about our own culture. And I think the end goal is to create Australians to feel, I guess, attachment and to feel proud to have Indigenous culture in our history and to own that.
Then so like back to rugby, your experience at Scott's playing in the first 15 for, was it 2-3 years?
Yeah. So I started when I was 16.
Yeah.
I loved it. Hey, I loved it. I remember like as a young boarder, like you come in and I remember like you see the pipes and you see everyone frothing out over the first 15 running out, and it's like, this is so crazy. I loved it. Hey, it was a really cool experience, and especially, as a young kid growing up watching it and then being there, it's like, this is the best thing ever. Yeah.
And then you obviously played in the forwards in year 11 and then went to the backs in year 12. What was sort of behind that?
Yeah, it was cool. I think I was always a forward growing up. I was always like number 8, number 6. And then I think I played 6 or 8. Yeah, when I was in year 10 and year 11. Got injured in year 11. And then when I came into year 12, we had a really good back row. We had heaps of back rowers, and I was one of the back rowers in that sort of group. And we had no centres, so I was like, and the coach came to me, he's like, oh, what do you think about playing centre? So I think we had Charlie Smith, Max Girdler and Taylor Deere, who were all good back, like 8, 7, 6. And they're like, oh, would you want to have a go at playing outside centre? I'm like, yeah, sweet. Like, because I love Sunnyvale and that growing up. I was like, yeah, of course, like 100%. Yeah, Jack's always been into me about being like fat and slow and I can't swear on this. But yeah, so it was a good opportunity for me to be like, nah, stuff you. Like, here, I'll have a go. Yeah, so started playing 13, then moved to 12, and 12 was probably my favourite. Yeah, it was good fun.
How'd you go that season? Did you?
Yeah, we were undefeated that year, so had a really good, strong side that year. Some good players, and yeah, had a great time.
Yeah, when you say like that's some of the funnest footy you've played school with.
Yeah, mate, it's so much fun, especially when I played at centre. Yeah,
for sure. And then so at the end of year 12 season, you made the Australian schoolboys.
Yeah.
Like, how was that experience? Did you go on a tour and stuff?
Yeah. So I made the team. We're ready to go off, and then the day before we were going to fly out to New Zealand, I did my syndesmosis, like did my ankle. So then I didn't end up actually going on tour. But it was at that point I'd already signed with South, so I hadn't like told anyone, but before I went on the tour, I'd already signed with the Rabbitohs for I think 2015, 2016 on a 2-year deal. So I was filthy. I didn't actually get to play for Aussie schoolboys, but then I was kind of like, oh, I've already got it sorted, and then I'll knuckle down, do my HSC, study now, and then try and get a good HSC, good ATAR to set me up, because yeah, my mum is always big into me about my schoolwork, so I was like, yeah, I got to do that for mum.
Yeah. Was it hard trying to balance both?
No, like, because it would have been hard trying to balance both, but because I did my ankle, I didn't really have to.
Yeah.
So yeah, same thing. Me and Maddox would just go to the library every day, just up at Waverley Library and try and study as much as we could. And then there's like a little sushi joint downstairs. We used to go feed up at that, and then we go fishing at night, and we just did that the whole time, mate. We did that the whole time.
Yeah. Have you got any memories that stand out for you during school or on tours, something like that? Or any funny stories you can tell?
Footy memories or like
anything?
Oh, mate, we got to some mischief in Aspinall House. Yeah, it was myself, George Carroll, Max Cowley, Joel Kerr, George McCallum, Jerry Lee. It was one of the international students came over from Hong Kong, and like we were all so different in that crew. But we just had a really good time in there, I think. Yeah, we were pretty loose, and I think the teachers were actually pretty cool with us, because like we would respect them, but then yeah, we mess around a lot. There'd be a lot of crazy stuff going on in the house.
Then so like coming through the Roosters juniors, played SG ball and stuff with them. Yeah,
so when I was in year 11, I think we were playing for New South, like, you know, they do that. What's it called? The national comp when it's like New South Wales versus Queensland and all of that out at Riverview.
Yep.
So I got picked in that. I was playing in that, and I went.
Well, that's Union, isn't it?
Yeah, Union. It's when I was in year 11. I went to go low on some guy, and he like stepped at the last minute and like cracked my neck sort of, and so I got nerved, like it pinched a nerve in my neck, and I got nerve damage down my whole side of my arm. And so every week I was coming back. When I was in year 11 playing first, I missed the whole year because I was going back every week to the doc being like, hey, can I play yet? And he's like, do these tests. He's like, nah, come back next week. Hey, can I play yet? Nah, you're still weak. Come back next week. So I sort of missed the whole season of that. I remember I was so spewing. And then I knew Tane Milne, who he hasn't played much footy since 20s, but he was playing 20s at the Roosters at the time. And I remember I always loved the Roosters growing up. I always loved playing league. And so I put together like this highlights video of myself playing when I was like 16 and sent it over to, he gave me his contact, Peter O'Sullivan at the time for the Roosters was a recruitment manager. And so sending this email of highlights of myself just saying, hey, I'm up at Scott's. Would I be able to do the preseason with you guys? Because you always hear about, oh, league preseasons are so hard. Like if you do a league preseason, you'll get fit, you'll learn how to tackle better. Like there was always that sort of chat around it. And mate, I just wanted to be able to train in some Roosters gear and go and train at the Roosters, mate. I was so keen just to do that.
So you sort of just hooked yourself up?
Yeah. So I got that contact from Tane, made that highlights video, probably with the help of Justin McInnes over there, and then sent that across to Sully, and he was like, yeah, sure, come in and join the summer squad for SG Ball. I went in there, didn't know anyone. We're training out at Matraville. It's just to drive out. I think it was Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I think we had Latrell was in that team, Joey Manu, Connor Watson, Pawasa Famasili now is at the Dragons. Who else we had? No, he was younger.
Oh, and then the Butchers would have been younger as well, wouldn't they?
I think Butch was at South by then. We had Jack Murchie, who he was at. I don't even think he played, mate. We had good players that got cut. Who else was there? What's the Cowboys centre? Isan Masters was there, but he got cut.
Oh, right.
We had heaps of good players in that team, and then we went through and so I played the first 3 games of that year, and Paul Mavrisky was there as well from Tigers. So I played the first 3 games, but it was cool. I ended up doing a bit of training with under 20s as well. Got to go into meet some of the older boys, like in the top squad as well. Like met Jared and Toops and those guys just like from around, and that was when I was in year 11. And then I always said to Sully, I'm like, yeah, when Scott's footy comes back, I've got to bail. And he was spewing. I had to leave, and he was like, oh, just come and play on the weekends. I'm like, mate, we've got to play school footy. So I sort of left that after 3 games, came back, and then played school footy in 2014.
So like loving the Roosters growing up, did you ever think you were going to play for South? So like, how was that?
Yeah, I think I sort of, when I got offered from South, it was just because it was such a good opportunity. I didn't really care, and I saw like they just won the comp. They had, like, I was going to be playing and training with guys like GI, Sam Burgess, those 2 big dogs. I was just like, mate, I've got to go there. Like, I think Roosters had offered me 2 years of under 20s, and South offered me 1 year of under 20s, but training full time. And second year I was in the top squad. So I was like, mate, I've got to go there. It's a no-brainer. It's 2 years training full time. And the first training camp that we had, we went over to America, went and trained in Arizona.
Was it true that you thought Arizona was in Australia?
Yeah. Well, I didn't know. I didn't think it was in Australia, but I was actually at the library with Jack and I was studying with him. And I got a call from Michael Maguire. I remember showing him my phone, and it was like, Madge is calling me. I'm like, holy shit. Answered the phone, and he's like, hey, mate, Madge here. We've had a guy pull out. Do you want to come over to this training camp in Arizona? I'm like, yeah, of course, mate. Yeah, of course. He's like, it's these dates, whatever. I'm like, Arizona. I'm like, no, it can't be the one I'm thinking of. So I had to Google it, and I'm like, it is. That's the only Arizona that's around. Yeah. But I was just wigging out, being like, surely, like, I'm not going to go to America. I'd never gone overseas, really. I was just, wigging out. Yeah.
So in round 19 of 2016 season, you made your debut. How was that?
Yeah, it was cool. I think that was after a pretty long year for me. I'd had heaps of finger injuries the year before, and then they had me doing heaps of running, heaps of fitness, and I sort of ran myself into the ground almost. Like I just was doing too much running, and then my groin went on me. So it was the day before round 1 in 2016. I had a groin reco, which is a 3-month injury, and I was filthy. Like I was so off it, and then sat out the whole first 3 months, and then working into my debut, I played a game of 20s against Cowboys. They had like Brandon Smith and Ponga and Kikau in that team.
Yeah.
Played a game of 20s against them, then a game of Reggie's, and then debuted, which was cool. I think debuted against the Broncos. We lost, but I remember. I think I weigh like probably 105 now. Remember on my debut, I was 20. I weighed 107 because I was just eating so much because I was so worried that I was going to be too small. And then I got out there and I was like, this is sweet.
And playing with the likes of GR, like you've already touched on it, but playing with the likes of GR and the Burgess brothers, how was that experience, and did you gain any tips from them? And
yeah, cool. I think they're like, Sam and Greg are 2 of the biggest freaks I would have played with for sure. Like hands down, they're 2 of the most imposing players on the field, and their talent and the way that they play, their style of play is like undeniable. I think. I used to watch Greg's highlights all the time when I was a kid. He was probably one of my favourite players as well, actually. Like, not that I could ever do what he does, but you always sort of watch that in awe and be like, how is this guy doing this to these other guys? Like, what is this? Yeah. so to be able to train with guys like that and play with them was really cool, really cool. I think it's different though. You see, there's different styles of leadership and different styles of players, and I think some of my favourite players that I would have played with, Boyd Corden, have to be up there, just through the way that he plays, and then also the man that he is off the field. I think it's a massive thing is how you carry yourself off the field and how you can build players around you rather than just being a full superstar.
Yeah. Then would you say in 2017 was your breakout season, especially in the Titans game, scoring a career hat-trick?
First Hattie.
Yeah.
It was good fun. I think 2017 was a roller coaster year as well. So Madge is Madge is renowned for dropping plays left, right, and centre. And I remember I played the back 8 games of 2016, and then coming to 2017, I had a good preseason. I'm like, yeah, sweet, I'll be in the team. Round 1, he didn't pick me. I was like, mate, come on. I remember he picked Robbie Rocco over me on the bench, and he was like, I was just more versatile. And I was like, whatever. Had to go play Reggie's for the week, and then got picked the week after to start 2017, and ended up getting the starting spot that year, and it wasn't the best year for South. We didn't win a heap of games, but it was a good experience for myself being able to play in a team like that and play some consistent first grade.
Yeah. Then moving a few years on, being signed again from the Roosters on a 3-year deal, was this sort of exciting? Loving them?
Yeah.
As a junior?
Yeah. To get the opportunity to go across the Chooks, I was stoked. I think as a kid, I had a Roosters jersey hanging on my wall. I had like a stuffed rooster I used to have in my bed when I was in primary school. Used to love Brad Fittler. Used to go watch the games and that kind of thing with my old man, and to get the chance to come and play for the Roosters, local area that I almost grew up in, being in high school here, and then a lot of my mates go for the Roosters. So I was like, it was a tough decision though, because I loved South, I loved the fans, I loved the team, and the setup that they had there. But I was just like, this opportunity to come to play for a club like this, with a team like this, coaching staff, culture, area, everything, they've just got it all sorted out, and they know how to win. So I'm like, I want to be involved in that.
Yeah. Then round 1, 2019, you made your debut for them against South.
Yeah, that was
a lot of emotions.
Yeah, that was a big game as well. And I had a shoulder reco that year at the start of the year, and my shoulder was still like so bad. And I remember I was just like doing everything I could to make sure I played that game. But I remember at the time I couldn't even bench like 60 kilos, and like I just felt so weak in my shoulder. But that game running out, and it was crazy. Like all the fans were booing me. Emotions are high. Like you want to play well for your new club. Physically, I wasn't quite where I wanted to be. So it was tough, but I think it was a cool experience. And now I love playing against South.
Yeah.
I think we've got them round 1 or 2 or 3 coming up in this next season. So we'll definitely be looking forward to that one.
Yeah. So there was a bit of push and shove in that game. Is there still bad blood now? Or?
No, not at all. I think
was that just in the heat of the moment?
Yeah, well, I don't even. The people said that he called me a traitor and stuff, but I don't think that even happened. Like he was. Yeah, I don't think he said. I don't think he said that. I think that was just more between those guys. But still tight with Cody, and he was my roomie in Origin, so we're all good.
Following on from that, facing the Raiders in the grand final, what was it like being part of back-to-back winning?
Yeah, it was cool. Obviously, I wasn't there in the first one, so it was back-to-back for them, but sort of it was my first one for myself personally. So, it was cool. I sort of walked straight into a team that knew how to win and knew how had that winning formula to go about it. So seeing guys like Cooper Cronk and Trent Robinson, Luke Keary sort of illustrate that and sort of get it ready to go and then attack it and really go after a game plan. It was cool to be a part of and definitely eye-opening for myself. And then to win a comp, mate, it's the dream. Just want to keep doing it.
Get the ring. Where have you put the ring now?
Yeah, rings back home. Rings back home. I'm not going to be wearing that around.
And then playing for your country, made the under-23s Australian side. How was it like?
Yeah, it was cool. It was cool. That was a bit different though. It's like, you represent Australia, but it's like you're representing under-23s. So it was a good opportunity, and we had a sick team, mate. We were so stacked, and we're playing France. So it was like, they went hard, mate. They were coming for us. Like they were trying to start brawls. They were like trying to flog us every tackle. It was definitely a different style of rugby league. But, mate, they actually love their rugby league, the French. I had a mate that moved over there and was playing for a little team in the south of France. And I actually went and visited him and like, met their guys and went out for dinner with their team and stuff. And, mate, they love their footy over there, the Frenchies. So that was cool.
Then this year, do you reckon you've been playing your best footy, like among all the distractions with COVID and stuff?
Yeah, I think you can't really say that. Like, you don't really want to think about when you're playing your best footy until maybe when you're retired, and you can be like, hey, that was a good year for me, or I did well there. But I think you're always hungry to be better. You're always got to be striving to do more and be better. And I think I definitely feel like I'm on the right path, but I still know I just got so much more to give. So you don't really want to cap yourself and be like, yeah, that was my best year. Like I'm super pumped for next year and try and be better.
And then this year with COVID during lockdown, how did you keep yourself motivated to train? And
it was pretty easy for me. I think I had a few little niggling injuries leading into the season, so I wasn't as fit as I wanted to be. So yeah, when COVID came around, I was like, great, like let's get down to it. Let's get to work, kind of thing. And I like I said, I'm good mates with Jack and Will Maddox, and I've got a couple of other mates that love their training and that kind of thing. So caught up with heaps of mates, and we just all trained really hard through that period to come back fit as and strong as and get ready to attack our seasons. And I think that's a massive part of footy is the preparation, and I've learnt that. I've always been a hard trainer, and training's been a big part of success, I think, for myself in footy. And I've also learnt the other side of that when I went to Roosters and my shoulder wasn't right and I wasn't training as hard because I couldn't. And then I think I was sort of almost giving too much respect to older boys at training, that I wasn't training as hard as I used to when I was at South. And my footy wasn't as good. I think, yeah, you got to do the work first, and then once you've done the work, that shows on the field.
Yeah. And with the season ending probably not the way you planned out, does this give you more drive for next year?
Yeah, I think, yeah, mate. It's the worst way to end a year is losing, especially like when you're in finals and then you're in Origin. I think usually at the end of the year you're only like you'll get knocked out in the finals, and it's the worst feeling ever, and it sucks. But then with this year, it's like, all right, now we're into Origin. We've got a good opportunity here. Get another chance to win, and then lose again. It's like,
yeah, boys.
Yeah, it's like double trouble, bro. It hurts. It's like I'm still getting over it now. But I think, I think win, lose or draw, you always want to be better. You always want to, especially if you lose, you always want to come back and be better.
Yeah. Then you touched on making your Origin debut in 2018. How was it like to play for your state? Like, was this pretty like a dream?
Yeah. That game one was in Melbourne. I remember running out, and like you look up and there were just people all the way to the top of the MCG, and like it was so loud. That was probably the biggest crowd I reckon I've been. I think it was 90,000 there.
Yeah. That's something different. Just
yeah. And I was just like frothing, I think. And I was on the bench as well. I was like just trying so hard not to like get too amped up and waste all my energy. But yeah, mate, playing for New South Wales is special, and it's something I want to do a lot more of.
Yeah, for sure.
So in this year's Origin Game 2, your teammate Payne Huss and Tino got in a bit of a scuffle.
Yeah.
Who was your money on the fight?
Mate, I've backed Payno till the cows come home. Mate, look at the size of that guy.
Looks like got a heavy hand.
Yeah. And he's an angry. He's like gentle, but then if he flicks a switch, he'll be an angry man. Like I don't want to get on his bad side. So
at training, has he ever?
Oh, not at training. He's just like quick to jump. Like if someone talks like smack about him, he'll be like straight away. Like, and he's like pretty antsy. So. Mate, I don't want to get on Payno's bad side, that's for sure.
Yeah. Was it good to see a bit of Biff back in the league? Or?
Yeah, no, it was good. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah. Where were you? Were you grabbing onto someone?
Yeah, I think I ended up grabbing Tino's. I was just trying to pull Tino away, or I think I was pulling maybe Lindsay Collins. I think he got in there as well. I'm like, mate, get out of here. Yeah. I'll look after him. I don't want him to get flogged.
Yeah.
And then what are your goals in the near future? Obviously, like with footy and then your charity as well.
Yeah, probably. I think with footy, it's just probably to be the best player I can be, to win as many big games as I can. I think that's the thing is there's so many different aspects of footy. Is you got to put yourself in the sort of ring to get picked into those teams to play in big games, and you got to get your team to play to get to reach the big game, and then you want to perform in the big games. And I think that's the goal for me. Is if you want to win, you got to perform in the big games. So. That's probably my goal for next year is to do my best to help my team get to big games and then perform when I get there. And then with the foundation, I think we don't have a bubble this year, so it's tough. It's tough with footy and stuff going on. So I'm just going to try and keep it ticking over, not get too flooded with helping too many kids at once. But So the biggest goal for me this year is to help Galvo achieve what he wants to achieve, and maybe make some plans about what a mini series or something going up north might look like.
Yeah. And I know you did like one of the seminars at the SCG.
Yeah. So that was our launch,
Yeah.
which was cool. We had a fair crew come down to that, and that was sort of just before all COVID came.
Yeah.
So it's really cool. I think being able to do something that's a passion of mine and try and help some people and make a difference. I think it's exciting and something that I wanna keep doing for a long time.
Yeah. Then maybe what's some advice for the young generation coming through?
Advice.
Maybe something that you've been.
Yeah, I think maybe what I was saying before about you got to train hard, you got to do the work. I think the work always comes first. If you do the work, then when it comes to game time, it's like fun, it's easy, and you're confident and you can back yourself because you know I've done all that work before. I'm faster, stronger, fitter, I'm better than these guys. So if you do the work and you always do the work, that'll never fault you, and I think that'll put you in a good position to win and enjoy your footy.
Yeah. So thanks again, Angus, for coming in today and coming on the podcast. Angus's socials will be in the description box below if you want to give him a follow. Make sure you drop a like, share it around.
No worries, boys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming in.
Appreciate it.
Cheers.
See you next video.